following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
Well, holy crap and happy birthday, Downers. Welcome back to the least comfortable show on the web, The System is Down, where we talk about all the uncomfortable topics like conspiracies, politics, and religion. And today we're going to be talking about conspiracies, politics, and religion, all three of them, because like I said, it's our birthday. It is 1 year. As of May 1st, the show is 1 year old, and it has been an amazing ride of all these uncomfortable conversations and amazing guests and everybody that I've gotten to talk to and all the stuff that I've gotten to put out there. And you guys, if you've been here since the beginning, then you are my favorite people in the whole world. All, I don't know, 3 or 4 of you. But if you're one of the gajillions that we've picked up along the way, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for sticking around. I'm not going to do an intro setup for this episode because I talk about all that in the discussion pretty well. And if you're familiar with the first episode of this show, then you know what you're getting into with this anyway. But before we jump into it, I got to remind you guys, if you're not already a member of the Downers Club, if you love the show, if you like what you hear, you want to be a part of it, you want to help it keep growing, getting bigger and better, then go over to tsidpod.com/support. You'll get a bunch of bonus content. We do a couple episodes every single week that members of the Downers Club get access to. You'll get our full backlog of bonus episodes that we've been doing for many, many months. You'll also get access to our exclusive Facebook group for club members. And at some levels of contribution, you'll get free merch and other stuff as well. So please go check that out. That is what keeps us going, keeps us growing, keeps us getting bigger and better. And that's what's going to fuel us through another great year of The System is Down. So go over to tsidpod.com/support and sign up for the Downers Club for as little as $5 a month. Anyway, I can't thank you guys enough for supporting the show through its inception and through its first year. So let's jump into this. This is the Uncomfortable Pow Wow 2. Happy birthday, and let's get weird. Well, here we are. The show's been going for a year. Happy birthday, everyone. So a year ago today, I think it was May 1st, we aired the first official episode of the show, which was the Uncomfortable Pow Wow, which included myself, Craig, Nathan, and Cole. And we were all there because we thought, hey, we're going to be tackling topics together. We're all four going to get together every now and then and go over something completely new and get a bunch of different opinions on topics.
Is that all there was that time?
Yeah.
There's only 4 of us?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we have perfectly, successfully succeeded in doing exactly 0 episodes with the 4 of us in the last year. So the band's back together. It only took, 2-3 weeks to find a time that we could all do it. And Nathan still showed up late, but here we are.
I had to do my hair.
Talking to your mic.
Had to do your hair for an audio podcast.
Yeah.
Me too.
There's a conspiracy regarding this.
There's conspiracy regarding everything, as Cole knows.
That's right.
So I don't really have any plans for this. I just thought it'd be fun to get everybody back together and see where everybody's at. And
I'm over here.
a year
I'm
later,
right here to your
Cole's
right.
to my left, Nathan's to my right, Craig's to my front, as I like him. And
Isn't that like a popular song? Craig's to my front.
Craig's to the left of me.
that's I think it's a boy band. Craig's to the front.
Oh, it's by the rapper known as Baby Cray.
Baby Cray. That's right.
But I can.
So yeah, if anybody really wants to go back and find out the differences between where we are now and where we were then, you can go back to episode 1. And I did it today. It wasn't that good, so you don't have to if you don't want to.
It was probably the best, I think.
Yeah.
I think you say that about every single episode that you're on.
This is probably going to be the best one. Just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've tried doing several episodes since then, having the 4 of us together, and it's always one person is unavailable. Cole.
One person. We all know who it is.
Well, I don't know. You guys proved pretty difficult to settle on a date, just that I've paid attention to anyway.
Right.
I don't remember ever trying to get together another time.
There was the Downies that you're supposed to be on, and you bailed at the last freaking minute.
I'm pretty
like
sure
an
that
hour
was
before.
a good reason.
While we were hitting record, you texted and said, "Hey guys, I'm not going to make it."
He basically walked into the room, sat down, and said, "Hey, no," and then just got up and left.
I'm sure there was a perfectly good reason.
I forgot I don't want to be here.
Oh, I just remembered I have something to do. It's anything with
Nothing
this.
else.
With fair reason. Yeah. There was
I
also
think you're already cuddled into Netflix at that point, Cole. I'm pretty sure.
That's probably legitimately true.
that happens.
You change into pajamas, you're not leaving your house.
Yeah, I mean, it's sweatpants
Done. Yeah.
and not going to go drive anywhere.
No.
It's all right. It happens. We also tried doing the four of us on the September 11th episodes,
Oh, yeah.
which you were going to be on, and then you were like, I don't know.
No,
I didn't really look into it that much.
You just had too many people by the time.
Yeah, we had a lot of people, but
did.
you were like, yeah, I can come, but, you know, I don't know if
I didn't do any
contribute that
research.
much. Yeah, which is
I
fine.
would have brought nothing but just
Right.
proofs, my already.
I did research, and
position.
all they did was make fun of me. So
The freaking facts guy over here with all the education.
sorry, I
and
guess I
facts.
should have come and been like, I think the Hamburglar did it. And everybody would have respected me more.
Guys,
Every time we do
I think the official story is that the planes actually did run into the World Trade Center.
Wait, you think the Jews did it?
My impersonation of Nathan. That whole entire episode.
That
It's
was
like,
weird.
Yeah, but I think this happened. But if you really look into the
Technically
facts of it, this is what happened here.
It's fun and all, but if you just look at the film,
Yeah, it's weird.
If you just think for a second, you'll realize that this is stupid. But I think that every time that we do a group discussion on conspiracy stuff, we should have one person who's a skeptic, two guys
probably
who are,
every episode. Then.
two guys who
It's
are
like-
into it, and then one guy who's literally just there as the red herring to raise the most ridiculously off the wall ideas that
bring up every one of the
I think I can be two of those at the same time.
I think so.
it would be more entertaining.
Yeah.
I heard that space aliens came down and abducted the World Trade Center.
And you must pick up and weigh each point brought to the table.
That's right.
With the same amount of care, even
You
those
have to
ones.
give everyone the same respect and
Just call
assume
me,
that they have a clue.
just call me filibuster.
My name's Phil. Phil Buster.
Mr. Buster here.
Oh, okay. So let's recap, or let's get into where we are now with the three CPR topics. We don't have to spend too much time on it because I don't want to whatever. This can be whatever it is. But as far as conspiracies, politics, and
Profound.
religion, I am pretty much in the same place on conspiracies. As you know,
It's the same place.
well,
this is
go
the
back
same
and listen to episode 1. No,
You could give one sentence.
I enjoy them. I enjoy digging into them. I actually believe some of them a lot more now because of some of the guests that I have interviewed, and one of the guests that I interviewed today that you guys don't even know about.
I do too.
You don't.
Shut up.
But by the time this comes out, everybody will know who it is.
So who is it?
So I already do.
His name's Cody.
Okay, well, that's some high praise to Mr. Cody.
You said high praise on the first episode too,
I have no
in
idea.
the first 35 seconds of the
I
episode.
have no idea if that's accurate.
I just listened to it today. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that.
But was I quoting Andy Samberg when I said it?
I think so. I said these are my best buds, and you're like, "Oh, that's high praise."
So in the Nick Cage voice.
Yeah,
That's high praise. I'm doing an Andy Samberg doing a Nick Cage.
I'm doing a
deep.
Cole, doing an Andy Samberg, doing a Nick Cage. That's high praise.
That's high
That's high praise, bro. Anyway, so that's me. I don't really have to say where I am on these things because people hear it every freaking week, so who cares? I'm not going to recap everything that I've said. Nathan, how about you? Where are you at?
With.
C.
All right.
You might want to choke up on the microphone there. You're pretty far back and
All
you
right.
have a low voice.
Sorry.
So low.
Solo.
Like the new movie coming out this winter.
Hey, no plugs.
Oh,
no plugs.
hey.
It's not this winter. It's
Y'all
like
see
next
that
month.
trailer?
Oh my god, is
Yeah.
that fast?
What? Is this a month?
I thought they were always
I
in
think
like
it's April.
winter.
It's either April or May.
I'm
Yeah.
going.
Oh yeah. It didn't need
That
to be
changes
said.
things. I wasn't going to go. I was planning on ending
Wait,
my
we
life.
should- if it was too far away, I wasn't
We
going
should
to go.
all four go and then podcast right after that.
Right after.
That's a great idea, and of course we're going to.
Can we go to a matinee? Because I have a hard
Shut up.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god.
All right, Grandpa, where are you at on conspiracies?
Where I'm at on conspiracies.
expected that from Cole.
I don't know what that means, but
Wasn't me.
Cole is the one who
Cole's
stayed
always
up.
in bed by like 8
Cole
o'clock.
is the one who went to see The Last Jedi with me on premiere night, and then afterwards we were up till like 3 o'clock in the morning. Then when he was supposed to work 2 hours later than that, just ranting about the movie because we couldn't help ourselves.
Yeah. Why
So
go to
when it
bed-
comes to
why go
Star
to
Wars,
bed at that-
Cole will hold out.
I didn't.
okay.
I didn't go to bed. I ended up calling into work.
As you should.
So,
Some things are more important.
Responsible adult.
in my defense, that job sucked ass. So.
Oh, good. So you don't work there anymore. I was hoping your
No,
boss
I
doesn't
quit
listen to the show.
eventually.
All right.
He quit that day. He's like, Star Wars,
Yeah.
guys. Star Wars.
Yeah.
Okay, this chair is broken.
It is. Good luck.
So all right.
That's what you get for showing up late.
I sat in your chair to begin with, but anyway.
Welcome to the podcast. Bring your own chairs.
And mic cables and quarter-inch adapters.
So where I'm at with the conspiracy is
Did you say conspiracy?
conspiracy.
Conspiracy? Is that what that translates to?
Conspiracy. I still enjoy hearing about them and thinking about them, but what I don't enjoy is the majority of people that like conspiracies do not like thinking through consistent
Okay,
logic.
facts guy. All right, facts guy.
Like-
I'm just kidding.
I
Would you say they seem given to the
You'll have your turn.
magnificence of it?
the magnificence
Like
of
they're
it.
given over immediately to like
The wonder.
Like I don't want to
kind of throwing
sound,
logic out the door.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like dismissive of anybody's
I
thought
think you
process
do.
or anything, and I don't want to.
You'll have
you
your
do.
turn.
I don't
no,
wanna
no
be,
swaying
uh,
opinions here.
I don't want to be rude. Like I'm not speaking about every single person, and if this is you and you feel like I'm talking about you, then you should probably feel bad. But I'm not trying to call anybody out in particular, But there are certain people who just like don't want to use logic when they're thinking through things. And when I deal with things, I want to engage people with logic. And I don't care whether
Novel
it's
idea.
quote facts or not, but if you're going to claim something, I want you to stick to a internal frame of logic, and
Rationing.
that's some sort of rationale that everyone can come and agree around. That's my biggest frustration with discussing things, is that I feel like I'm in one camp and everyone else is somewhere else, and I have very little
You're right and
engagement.
everyone else is wrong? Question mark?
Yeah, I'm right and you're
Sounds
wrong.
Pretty much exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to take it that way, that's fine. No, I
take it
guess
the right way.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you were asking people for questions about flat Earth. Like people were like, "Oh, it's dumb because time zones," and I'm like, "Here's an actual question I want an answer to," and nobody like really wants to engage in those types of things, and that's my frustration. Is
15 minutes in,
You
somebody
just
mentioned
wanna-
flat Earth. All right, continue.
yeah, you just want to go.
It was not me.
Okay,
Let
also
the record
Hitler. We got that out of the way.
Hitler, of course.
What
I was
else?
going to do that naturally.
Sorry,
Well,
man.
it wasn't going to be natural
All
at
right.
this point.
You're
But
going to be such a dictator about how this goes.
Hitler ever natural?
You are literally Hitler.
So that's where I'm at on conspiracies. I like them as thought experiment, but I really only enjoy it when I can engage with people on that level, and almost nobody wants to do that. So I'm frustrated.
I feel very offended and triggered by that.
You should. I called you out directly.
No, I totally agree. And
one
whether
person's logic.
whether some
though,
people choose to believe it or not based on this show. I mean, I listen to people that I disagree with, and I talk to them on the show all the time. I don't always push back, even if I disagree on things, because who cares what I think? It's
Yeah.
like, let the people present what they have come across and whatever, and I will question everything and stay uncomfortable. And I will question them if they have like something that doesn't make sense. But I feel like I approach things logically as much as I can, and even the things that aren't logical, I like to explore them and see where they go and question them.
And it's
logically.
not like, you have to follow my logic. Like I will meet you where you're at. I just want you to play that through, and
Right.
that's what I'm not seeing. It's just people being willing to say, I stand here, and then play off that.
Right, and be consistent with it.
Yep.
Instead of just, I don't know about that.
Yes.
I can't answer that question.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, the problem is that if you think one way, you're expected to have all the answers too, and I don't think that should be the case.
No.
Whether, I mean, taking as an example, I'm not going to say flat Earth. Taking as an example, 9/11. If somebody says 9/11 was exactly what they said, you can't expect them to have all the information on that and be able to answer every question. And I think that the other side should get that courtesy too. But,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yep. Burden of proof.
Craig, have you? I've said many times on the podcast that this whole podcast is just an experiment to see how quickly we can descend Craig into madness. And the last episode of the show will be broadcast live from his padded cell or the closet where he hung himself in. Yes, the closet behind him that he hung himself in.
Hanger.
So, are you there yet?
No, I think I'm maybe less close to insanity than I was maybe 6 months ago.
Sounds like an
A year
insane
ago
reason.
is
So you
pretty
believe
much
fewer
less close
conspiracies.
to insanity.
to
I'm starting to
complete tinfoil hat hanging myself in my closet. Insanity. No. So my journey began not long before the start of this show, when I actually started
Is this
getting into
church?
it. Probably 6 months before.
Tell us about your
What's
walk,
that?
brother.
A journey.
Tell us about your journey.
If I take
Well,
one more
then-
step.
I've ever been.
In that amount of time, so from about 6 months before till about 6 months after, I just spent time digging, reading, doing lots of reading, lots of research, listening to podcasts and stuff, and like
Starting like,
all conspiracies, everything, pretty much, like just any of it.
how
Just
are you?
any-
How in the world have you? That's so much. There's so many.
There, and I spent lots and lots of time reading and listening, mostly listening. But
Does
a
it
lot
feel
of
like
it I
you
would.
wasted a lot of time then?
No.
Cole's
because
really
I'm a
trying
guy-
to taint the pool
no.
here. He's like,
No, because-
are you sure about
No,
that?
No, because
Because-
there are so many that are just. There are so many really
That's
dumb
true.
ones.
There's some really dumb ones, and
There's some that.
in the very
hold
least,
more
it's an
water.
interesting read to me, and I can still sit here and say, "Wow, that's dumb." I can read a or a fiction book and say, "Wow, that was freaking dumb," and still enjoy, like, get entertainment value out of it. So, either way, if I believe it or don't believe it, I still learn something out of it. And mostly, it's been podcasts, listening to conspiracy theory podcasts and stuff, and like the Greg Carlwood show. What's that? TLC. A lot of his listeners I don't agree
THC,
with.
not TLC. That's a band.
THC.
The Higher Side
Okay, my
Chats.
bad.
It's the name
Fireside
of the podcast.
Chat. It's been a long time since I've listened to his, honestly. So it's still one of my favorite podcasts, but probably 50% of his people on there I don't agree with, at least to an extent, but they're still extremely interesting people, and it makes my mind, like the gears in my brain, have to turn and figure things out for myself, and that alone is enough for me. But then I get to, I think the thing that's caused me to pull back a little has been since all these Trump supporters are diehard, supposedly conspiracy theorists now, because they are the dumbest conspiracy theorists. the ones that think
The Alex
that-
Jones clan.
yes, Alex Jones and Beyond clan.
Right.
It's like you get people on, like, you're listening to their YouTube videos, and they're saying all the stuff that's intriguing to me, like, oh, the shadow government and this is happening, this is happening, and Donald Trump's the one that's going to save us from it all. And it's like, oh my God, are you fucking kidding? It's like, now you lost me there.
You had
So-
me going there for a second. I thought you were
Right,
onto
right.
something, but saying that Donald Trump's going to be the savior of mankind, no matter what your stance is on anything, it's
hard.
I'm done
that's the
listening
most-
at that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the most impossible to believe. I'd rather listen to somebody talk about flat Earth than talk about Donald Trump being the savior of humanity. So
And like I
That's-
said on the Alex Jones thing, that's where I fell off of Alex Jones. It's like he used to be the anti-system guy. Like he said, all these parties are crap, everybody blah, and then suddenly he's like, but Donald Trump now is going to save everyone, and he's president. It's like you can't say that the system is broken and nobody can possibly. Who cares? We covered all that. Whatever.
So where I am now is like I don't have time right now to keep looking into like older or existing conspiracy theories. So where I'm at now is just all the freaking inconsistencies in the media is the biggest thing that takes up my time right now. Like when a shooting happens or freaking some terrorist thing happens, it's not even necessarily, well, that's a conspiracy. It's just like listening to the inconsistency in the media. It's just like, I can't even listen to your horse shit anymore.
Right.
So
Things don't have to
that-
be a false flag to see that the things you're saying don't add up with the things you said yesterday or the things you're
Right.
saying tomorrow.
Exactly. And just like little lines start to stick out where you can see how they're spinning a story or how they're trying to push this politically. Like from like 5 minutes into an event, like a school shooting happens, 5 minutes in, you can see which direction a channel is really starting to spin the story just based on the stuff they say. And it's exhausting. I mean, I know I've heard Cole's been to that point of exhaustion and to the point where he's kind of the stage he is now.
Hey, don't
And-
taint the bull here. Let Cole
No.
give his statement.
I'll let
and Cole
Cole
needs
give
to
his
let you give your statement.
But I still am highly interested in all things conspiracy related. I don't necessarily buy into all of them, obviously. You can't buy into all of them because then if you bought into every single one, they all contradict each other. So,
Right.
yeah, I still look into them when I get time, but
So
I'm in school right now, so I don't have time.
your time is pretty well up on this answer. However, at the beginning you said that you're further away from the padded cell. Does that mean that you believe less conspiracies, or
I think
you
I'm
just
just
don't let them drive you as crazy as you used to?
I think that like I don't like get on those rabbit trails, like falling down the YouTube trails and stuff like that as
You
much as
can't
I
because
used
YouTube
to.
took all those videos down.
Exactly. So before it was just like, oh, that could be true, and oh, that could true. What if that's true? What's that true? Now I'm just like, oh, that's an interesting story. I mean, it could or couldn't be true. It's not really dictating the direction my life is in right now. So
Right. Gotcha. All right, let's move on to politics. Just kidding. Cole, go ahead.
What's the rotation here? What are we supposed to touch on?
Conspiracies. Just
Oh,
where you
I
at?
thought it was all of it.
No, we're doing them one at a time because it's easier.
Conspiracies.
Yeah. Which you did have a whole episode on this. So you could give where you've come since last year,
I
or
give
from
them,
where you came since
I pay them
Cole
little,
Hates Me episode.
I pay them little to no heed. I really can't stand people's taking to Facebook with outrage over things they know almost nothing and no real details about.
I can't stand people taking to Facebook for any outrage.
I know I can't. I just
On
can't
either side
stand.
of it.
I just can't stand the level of excitement that it gets blown up to, and I don't know. It's just not. I'm not interested anymore. Like even at all. I think
Yeah.
it's too much. I don't, and I don't really. I think almost hardly any of it has any real merit, in my opinion. There's always stuff that's like, huh, that's a little weird, that's a little fishy, but I'm not interested in digging
Sure.
and trying to do all the gymnastics to try to figure out what could have really. I mean,
Right.
there are some things that I think it does affect. Like if this was true or that were not, or this were whatever, that might affect daily life, but just so much of it doesn't, and it's just it's too much energy. I don't.
Sure. No, that's fine.
And anytime I would mention or try to say anything, put in my piece, I either got too riled up or somebody else got too riled up, and it's just like, this is not worth it for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's really hard not to just roll my eyes at stuff, and not because I think I'm smarter, just because I'm like so sick of it.
Right. Honestly, I get to that point. Just like Craig said, it's like there's so damn much that you get to a point where it's like people are like, oh, you need to do an episode on this. It's like, nah, I'm not. You
could
I
never-
don't have time to. And there's like a freaking shooting every single day that I can't keep up with the regular news, let alone what people are saying are conspiracies or whatever. Like, it takes a while to process things, and if you try and force it all in,
Well, in today's accessible, everything, technology, anybody can there's no limit to them. There's a multitude
Right.
of things and claims.
which is good and bad. It's a double-edged sword.
Well,
People should
yeah.
be allowed to spew stupid things, but
Yeah, but it
doesn't make it helpful.
I mean, it's hard for me to think of things that aren't music analogies, but if the music industry is saturated, the conspiracy industry is on another level.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are waking up, bro. People are waking up.
waking up to just crazy thoughts and wanting to get attention.
Yeah.
A lot of it, but hey,
I definitely got burnout when, like you're saying, there's a shooting every other day, and somebody's like, there's a brunette chick at this shooting that vaguely resembles another brunette chick who was at another shooting. Therefore, obviously, all of these people's real suffering is fake, and
Right.
f them.
Yeah.
Like, when your desire to prove something wrong overwhelms your desire to have compassion for another human being, because one
Or
of
even
two
your
things
desire
is
to
true.
Seek truth.
Yeah.
Like you're cherry picking. You're choosing the things that fit your
Exactly.
agenda and your story.
Well,
And it's on
Yes.
both sides.
When your
Yeah,
worldview
that's
dictates your perception of reality, that's when it's a problem. And one of two things is true. Either that's real or it's fake. And if it's fake, then sure, make fun of them and say their suffering is not a big deal. But if it's real, you're a monster. And I feel like you
Right.
have to realize
gotta
at a
be-
certain point you can question things without being a dick.
Right, you got to be super fucking careful. And that's what I've said on this. Like, every time we bring up something like that, or even 9/11, it's like, I'm not saying it didn't happen, because if it did happen, then I'm an asshole. And I'm not trying to make light of anybody's situation, of course. I just want to... I mean, I'm not the guy who's going to drive out to some parent's house of a dead kid and say, your child never died. And those people... Those people are not. Those people aren't in my box. Or not hashtag not my conspiracy. Like, those people do not represent me in any way, and I hate that. That is what everybody sees. And even Alex Jones yelling about things. Anybody who speaks in definitives, this person did not die. This person did not die. This and this and this. Like, you don't know, and the fact that you don't know, it really bothers me that you are so quick to, tear somebody down that just went through a huge tragedy that you can't even fathom.
Yeah, I feel
The
pretty
thing
strong.
is-
Go ahead, Craig. Sorry.
I was going to say, you have a lot less backpedaling to do if you don't speak in definitives, too.
Totally.
Because, like, when something comes out against, like, Alex Jones, like, well, this proves that what you said is wrong. And then he's having to, like, backtrack on everything he says. Well, I didn't say that. This, what I meant to say
Right.
was this. And it's just like, if you don't speak in definitives, you don't have to
And you
backpedal
can't.
like
You
that.
shouldn't speak in definitives because you don't know. You weren't
Right.
there. You
Nobody-
do not know. You see things that are shady, but you don't know anything.
Exactly.
Right. Pointing out the shady, which is the most I do anymore. It's just like, well, that looks a little weird and that's a little off. And that I think is fine. That's needed. Like, people should question things. Like the whole Vegas shooting thing. There's still so much shady unanswered stuff now to this day that I'm like, all right, well, we'll probably never know the answer to that. But I'm not like, oh, there definitely was more than one shooter, or there definitely it was definitely a government conspiracy, or there definitely was only one shooter in the thing. Like, we don't know because there's so much shadiness around that still to that day. So I can still say, that's a little questionable right now.
Either way, don't be a dick.
Yeah, I think
Right.
if you look at crime in any capacity, it's almost always a little messy, and it's hard to gain all the details. If you had two people witness something that even wasn't a crime, like something, you have someone act something out and you have two people describe what happened, there's going to be consistencies because A, the mind is not a perfect record, and B,
Inconsistencies.
Both.
whatever I said.
Yeah, there's going to be both.
Yeah.
Consistencies and some
Right, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're not going to have exact duplicates of what happened. And I think whenever you're getting into things like this and you hang your hat on, well, this is weird, it doesn't mean something fishy is going on necessarily. So you need to have something more substantial than, oh, the details don't add up, because they rarely ever do.
Right, and the details don't add up doesn't mean the furthest,
Exactly.
most outlandish idea is true just because that doesn't make sense
And
to you.
again, you have to backpedal and make yourself look like an asshat, and then you discount things that might actually be substantive when you're talking
Right.
about conspiracies, and you make everyone look like an idiot.
Right.
So that's my frustration with it.
Yeah.
Do I believe there are conspiracies? Definitely. Do I believe in every single one? Absolutely not. And I think most of them are hogwash. So that's where I'm frustrated.
Sure. And as somebody who hosts a not conspiracy podcast,
Yeah.
I I would say that
air quotes.
as much as I mean, I don't have a problem with people who are like, no, everything that the media says is true. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because that is like the quote unquote logical, like that's the easiest conclusion to come to. I have a much bigger issue with people who are like, no, it's a conspiracy, but also here's all this other crazy shit that makes the whole thing look ridiculous and makes people like Cole get exhausted from listening to people.
Yeah. Same.
Cole, you were going to say something, and I think I cut in on you.
Oh, I think you guys pretty well covered the idea. That being the only thing I was thinking was that it seems like no matter what kind of headline or major, a tragedy or anything happens, it doesn't matter what really happened. People will seek to make a conspiracy out of it because you stand to gain a lot of hits and attention, and it clearly
and
happens.
the YouTube generation and the social media stuff, it is kind of ruining the whole idea, because
can
people are
be-
like, if I put this in my headline and it's inflammatory, then I will make money off of it.
There can be. I'm pretty sure that like there is not a single nationwide headline tragedy, you name it, that isn't going to be theorized upon and blown out of proportion.
Oh, for sure.
So,
But I
how do
also
you-
think
how
that
do you really
mainstream
sift through it all, and you have to really be dedicated and interested in it to do that. And even if you've done that, I still don't think you're holding any facts at the end.
You still can be wrong. Doesn't mean you
I
are
mean,
wrong.
and
You
it's
can be.
and it's kind of like, what am I going to do about it? How does it affect me right now?
Yeah. If you
What's
had,
my level of commitment to this?
Yeah. If you
Very
had
low for
definitive
me,
proof
sure.
that was unquestionably accurate, what would you do with it? And you would probably be stopped by the people who are in place trying to keep it from being known.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, just not that concerned. And if there are some that are like, whoa, that's pretty disconcerting, because if I happen to see something that I think is really weird, but I certainly don't go looking for it.
Sure.
And it's just too, I don't know. I don't have time for it. I do not have time for that. And if there was something that's like, wow, that I can't ignore that. I've never, I mean, except for things like 9/11 and really major events or things like that. So that's like the only one I can think of that I'm like, yeah, it's got some real ramifications. And of course, if the flat Earth one was real, it has intense.
You said it, not me.
It has intense implications, and it's just by that size alone, it's clearly a farce. But so that one I'd pay no heed.
Debunked.
Speaking definitive.
Put it in the.
Debunked.
I will speak definitively on that one. That's
It's all right.
Absolutely.
It's all right.
all right.
I didn't bring it up. I have not said it, and when I did, I backpedaled.
Yeah,
So
like, I don't want to sound apathetic. I'm more disillusioned with the
can't-
community than apathetic about the issues. So, just to be clear.
sure.
You are?
Yeah, I'm not apathetic. I'm disillusioned. Whereas you're leaning closer to apathy.
Okay, right. Well,
I want to make the distinction.
you're
I'm not.
like that,
I'm
yeah.
not like I don't care. I'm just like I wish other people cared enough.
I think that most of the stuff this is actually more. I don't know.
This is why we should do more stuff like this, because you don't necessarily care that much, which is fine. You do care and think it's complete shit.
You'd probably say who you're talking
you also
about.
you right, I'm pointing fingers. Cole, you think you don't necessarily care, but you think it's shit. Nathan, you do care and you think it's shit. Craig, you're a crazy flat earther, and I'm
No,
like the
no, I'm
only
not.
rational one here.
Craig is shit and I don't care.
Here's the thing: is that's what I'm trying to say. Is there's some that I could care about. I mean, there are some that I could
If you
care
had time.
about, but with the sheer volume of just bullshit out there,
Right.
I just feel like I gotta. For me, it's just like I just gotta just kind of leave it.
Sure.
Just leave it. Like if there's something that I really feel like I need to know more about, I'll know when
No,
that happens.
Exactly.
I'll
I
know
get
when
that, and I've
happens.
gotten to points, especially with the show, it gets overwhelming, and I've gotten to points where I'm like, I just don't want to talk about this right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I will, I do, but it's hard, especially that's why we haven't done that many like conversations where it is like 9/11, where we all do a bunch of research and we all dig into it and like give what we found. It's a lot easier to have somebody else on who's like, I did all the research and I want to talk about it, and then I just have to, fill in the blanks. So
Yeah.
I'd like
Ask
to just point
questions,
out the
keep
word
conversation.
research is incredibly loosely used here, because you can only know how much you've put into looking into something, and then you can say, well, he's done the research, or I did the research. I mean,
well, somebody that
today
at least can hold a conversation. Like,
Sure.
I don't know that much
can-
about a lot of conspiracies that I should, like even like the Oklahoma City bombing
Right.
and stuff like that.
But even
like,
if you spent like 3 days straight,
Yeah.
3 days straight on Google and the internet, and
Right, that
whatever the
doesn't
hell,
make me a-
that's not real research.
Nothing like 30 years.
I've never really done
you say
real
30
research.
years,
Waco.
You know what I
Ole
mean?
Damagard has been doing research on this type of stuff for 30 years. So I'm not plugging anything or saying anybody should
Right. It's not that
believe anything, but
time
he
frame
does.
is-
He's dedicated his life to it for 30 years, and he is one person that I think does have credibility because of the time that he puts into it.
Well,
And he's gotten death threats
Time's
for
one
it.
part of it, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it isn't just the length of time that someone's been doing on something
Totally.
that gives them, the credibility. But
I feel like we should have ended on
Combination.
conspiracies, because that's like going to be the most that people have to
Do
say.
you
probably.
do you want to pee?
I have nothing
No.
more.
What?
Do you want
I've
to
said everything I
I'm good.
was thinking about it.
Go to pee.
I am good still.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought maybe we
He
talk
meant
about
This is
Go
politics.
to P, like go to the politics stuff.
Yeah, wow.
I didn't even catch that.
Cut.
No, go ahead.
Cut all that. Okay, cut.
Let me give it to you again.
No, the Uncomfortable Pow Wow is the least edited episodes.
I'll give you a clean take here.
'Cause these are the most fun. My mic is falling here. Let me tighten it up. But yeah, it's cool. I'm totally fine with people being burnt out on it. I'm totally fine with people not being burnt out on it and coming to different conclusions than I do. That's totally fine. But yeah, I would just say, you know, I hate to say it because, you know, conspiracists get dogged on for saying do your own research. But if you care, do your own research. If you don't care, then don't. It's fine. But I mean, don't take my word for it. Just look into some of the things and listen. I mean, listen to the episodes. A lot of the people that I have on have done. I would say everybody that I've had on that talks about any topic that we've talked about has done far more research than we have. That kind of goes without saying. That doesn't make them experts or make them right. So who cares? Let's move on to politics. Politically,
I might be more apathetic about that.
That's fine.
Oh, I'm sure I am.
I'm with you there.
Well, I'll start. Politically, I've kind of lost my luster. I mean, last time it was right around election time and everything, shortly thereafter, and it had been, I think I said in that episode, it had been like roughly a year since I'd started digging into some stuff, and it was all because of Donald Trump. I started looking into the sides just because he made it entertaining. I mean, nobody can disagree with that. Even if you hate him, I don't like him. I borderline hate him. But I said in the first episode that I was basically a libertarian and leaning that way, and I voted for Gary Johnson for what it's worth. I don't know if that makes me a good or a bad libertarian, probably a bad one. But I would say now I am heavily into libertarian side, and probably, especially based off of the conversation I had with Roger Paxton that came out a couple weeks ago, I am like borderline anarchist and think that the whole thing needs to go. But that's me. Nathan, where are you at?
I think a year ago, I would probably say I was fairly libertarian, definitely not as much in the camp as you. I would guess I would consider myself more an independent voter. I vote according to my conscience and where I feel the important issues, where I should vote based on where things are going. I don't go out and vote along party lines. I don't think you can throw your vote away. So I vote according to my conscience. I think that's the only right way for someone to vote.
Right.
So I don't know what that makes me. I wouldn't say I'm libertarian because I do feel like government has a place. I'm not
totally anarchist, but I feel like it's a long stretch and a far ways away. On paper, the idea of anarchy, I love. The application, I have some issues with, and I'm down for trying anything. But
I would go so far as to say, on paper, I think any form of government sounds great.
Sure.
It's the people that get in the way. So
humanity ruins everything.
Exactly. We're here alongside each other, and I seriously couldn't give a shit about what form of government it takes as long as it's actually working for the people that it's supposed to be taking care of.
Right.
So I honestly think our current form of government is well past its expiration, and I can't imagine it going much longer. So in that regard, it's interesting and somewhat anxiety-ridden to think about what may or may not happen.
It's exciting and horrifying.
Exactly. I could go with any form of government if I feel like it's being effective. So I don't really label myself with something, not because I feel like labels are stupid, just because I don't believe that I understand where I lie. I just go according to what I think is best at the time.
I kind of agree, and I like a quote that Penn Jillette said. He's like a hardcore, well, maybe not hardcore. He's a libertarian. He's a big spokesman for it and everything. And he has said many times, like, like lesser government, I absolutely believe is the way. And as soon as we try it and there's people dying in the streets, then I'm all for the other thing.
Exactly.
Like whatever works. I think that this would work 100%, but if it doesn't, then I'm not a libertarian anymore.
Yeah, my big issue is that historically, governments which are approaching the anarchy limit tend to be very chaotic and disruptive.
Which governments?
Well, I guess that's the point. They're not governments. But
well, I mean, can you name a case where somebody has implemented something close?
Generally speaking, anytime you see a coup, that would be close to an anarchy, because you're seeing a chaotic government where there's not really anything imposing any particular order, and people are taking it into their own hands. And when you see coups, especially like in Africa over the last few decades, we've seen a lot of murders just because people are different than you. And we see that all over the world, a lot more recently because governments are changing. And that's in our current environment, the closest we're going to see to a government that is anarchical, anal retentive. So whenever you see that, where there's kind of a chaos rule, you're going to see things that are worse for humanitarian purposes and goals. So I have a hard time really standing behind anarchy because I know where it leads, which is basically people getting massacred. And
I'm not trying to like sway you or anything. Just out of curiosity, did you listen to the Roger Paxton episode?
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh, definitely you should.
You should.
It's intriguing, and I have more questions now about anarchy than I did before I listened to it.
It's extremely interesting, and his podcast is great too. And I brought him on because he's just like putting it out there. He's like, this is how it could work, and
that's my problem.
The whole episode is basically hypotheticals. Like, how would that work? How would that work? How would that work?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be something you enjoy.
It's a good thought experiment, and I enjoy, again, the idea of a lot of different forms of government, but we have yet to see a true anarchical government or lack thereof that was in the favor of the humans that it was supposed to be
I don't think we've seen any government any time that's been in favor of.
True, but we have seen some that were far more successful than others.
So for you, like, hypothetically, what would be ideally, politically, what do you want right now? If you could wave your magic wand, as Gary would say, and make a utopia in America, what would it be?
Yeah, without altering humankind or the nature that people have. Because
wiping out humanity.
If I could change the way that people like to live their life, then that would be, totally different. But a form of government that, without changing the way people are, the best form of government in my mind would be one that does as little as necessary to enable as much liberty and freedom as possible.
Sure.
That would be similar to libertarianism, but there's a big difference in that it recognizes there's a need for order and laws and regulations.
Yeah, and libertarianism is a big spectrum. There's a lot of them that see a place for government, national government for like self-defense and holding up laws and things like that. But
basically, it needs to enable people to lead their lives the way that they would prefer to, with liberty and without without leaving people
leave me alone.
Without leaving people to
die.
I guess dwell in poverty and starvation. Like our current country, like we have so many people who are starving and are in poverty, and so obviously it's not working. You got to find that balance of however that's going to work, where we take care of each other while not becoming a socialist government. Right. Like that's why I think we've never been able to achieve that perfect balance. Is there's really nothing that solves the issue. If I could come up with a government that would, perfect, but I don't think there is one.
So you're very similar to where you started out, because I think in the first episode you said something to the effect of like, I love the idea of politics, but the fact that politics involves humans screws the whole thing up.
Exactly, because basically any discussion about politics exists in a vacuum where people will adhere to the rules.
Right.
What's that?
It should be chimps.
Yeah, chimps.
They've got it down.
Return of the Planet of the Apes of the World of the sequel of the part 2.
They had it almost right.
They almost had
running
it right.
for the Planet of the Apes party in 2020 is Nathan
2020 apes for life. Yeah, that's the thing. Most discussions of government exist in a hypothetical world where people are acting according to the laws and rules set in place by the government, and
not even acting, just saying according to what they want people to hear.
And that's just simply not the case. There's always going to be people who are acting outside of the system or trying to get by doing something better for themselves. Hedonistic tendencies lead to a system that is broken. So I really don't believe in any form of government to say this is going to solve our problems.
Nothing works. We're all doomed. Craig, what do you think?
That's pretty much my theory of it. It was your last sentence there. No,
burn it all down. Humans suck.
About where I was a year ago. A year ago, I said I am politically agnostic. I think they're all full of shit, and nobody really has a good answer for it, and nobody's even really looking to find a good answer for it. We're just like arguing pretty much against the other guy's issue, even if we may or may not agree with it. It's like, well, obviously I'm going to argue against that because you're on the right or you're on the left, so I'm going to have to argue against it and fight against it. So nothing's getting done politically. As far as a solution, basically, I don't think there is one. I think we are all pretty well screwed. In this country, I think it's screwed up to the point where there'd have to be a lot of people would probably have to die in order for something to completely change. And as ominous as that might sound,
do you mean like an uprising,
uprising, civil war, or
right?
And I don't think the government is too powerful now. I don't think it's going to allow a change without like stepping in. And
you don't think the government's too powerful now?
No, the government's too powerful now that I don't think that they would allow. Obviously, they're not going to just be like, "Oh, this is what the people want, so this is what we're going to give them." They're
not going to roll over and take it.
Right. Let's go back to this anarchy issue,
which it was hard for us to get out of, England. And
right.
It was a very quick turn of events that got us to the point where we are now, where we have far more freedom than they do still, given our circumstances. So I don't think it's impossible, but...
No, but I don't think anybody's really... I don't think there's enough people... You've
been fattened up pretty well and cushed
up.
I
was going to say, there's not enough people that on board that are willing to put in the effort to make a change. They're just going to ride the wave out and watch the whole place just burn to the ground because that's what we do. We're lazy. We're not going to put in the effort to change it. And the handful of people that want to change
it until it changes.
Exactly. So back to the anarchy thing. I just listened to the Roger Paxton episode today, actually, and I was kind of discussing it a little bit on the forum. A guy actually in the forum, Mark Archer, we probably all had him as a teacher at some point. He said the only thing I remember him saying,
Nathan.
Yes.
Only thing I remember that him saying when I was in high school was, communism is a fantastic concept if there wasn't people.
Right.
And that has stuck with me to this day. Like, people are the selfish things that completely obliterate communism. And I think it's true also with anarchy. Like, anarchy is a fantastic concept. Like, yeah, we shouldn't have people telling us what to do, and we should just be able to regulate ourselves. We should just be able to pay, as Roger Paxton was saying, a police force. You could just have like a privatized police force where it's pretty much like an insurance thing. You pay them to protect you. It's like, well, then what's to keep them from being corrupt and like charging you more? Or
they're people too, and they're corruptible.
Yeah, only being or acting like gangs down in like Mexico, where they go around and offer their protection for a fee to these local businesses, but if they don't, then they come and shoot up the businesses themselves. It's like selfishness is humanity's selfishness. It's always going to be there, and it's always going to basically ruin all these fantastic ideas that we have of government. Like Nathan was saying, it looks fantastic on paper, and then you put people in it, and it screws everything up. Same with communism, same with anarchy. I mentioned in the forum that the animal kingdom, basically you have groups of animals. They either live like in communist basic groups or in like complete anarchy where they just do their own thing and live on their own. Like bees are
mostly anarchy.
Bees I would consider to be like communism. Like animals that like have hives, like hive type features. That would be like a communist type group. But you throw selfishness into a beehive and you're not going to get anything done, and nothing's going to be accomplished.
Let's spend an hour talking about the politics of beehives.
The pollen ticks.
The pollen ticks.
Well, as someone who actually does have experience with raising bees, like
let's bring in the expert here.
I just want to say put a little buzz out there. I do put a little buzz. I do sell honey. No, but like there's nothing selfish about like the bees who hang out outside the hive to die because they're not useful until next season. season.
Cool. The ones that smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
And have motorcycles.
Yeah, I know.
Hanging out.
It's totally rad. Yeah.
Picking up all the queen bees.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one.
So I guess we don't have that
Passing her around.
level of selflessness in humankind very often. Certainly not on that scale. So I don't think we can really emulate the hive mentality.
All right, let's just
That's
talk about
right.
bees. Nathan, as the bee expert,
Yeah, thank you.
How does the queen work? Are there any other female bees, or is it
No,
like,
she's
hey,
the only
there's-
female.
There's one female that's born, so she's the. How does that work?
They make
How does
they
bee
actually
biologic-
they actually make her
biology
using something called royal jelly. They actually take a larvae and they basically treat it. Yeah.
Royal jelly?
Yeah, no, I'm not shitting you. That's actually what it's called. They
I think
take
I saw that in the pharmacy aisle the other day.
yeah, they take one of the little baby bees that's not anything yet. It's basically like you have a bunch of blank baby bees and you type them as things
Like
that you
pen
need,
dolls?
and they create.
But what do they
using,
identify themselves as?
Well, that's a good question. I've never asked one of them. But yeah, they create the queen bee using this royal jelly, and it's only for the queen to eat.
I don't believe any of this.
My new band is called Royal
You're
Jelly.
making
It's
it up
obviously a
as
ska
you were
band.
talking.
Yeah, it's only for her to
obvious.
eat, and she eats it, and that's what makes her a queen. And then
The
they
bee conspiracy.
they basically type all the other types, like the drones and everything else gets typed
They
through.
have drones?
Yeah.
Oh man!
And there's
they're,
actually
they're streets ahead of us.
yeah, there's actually certain bees where their only job is to.
ridiculous.
This is awesome though. Listen to this.
Please, let's move on.
Because this has
not
huge
awesome
this
at
has
all.
huge implications on our societal thing. There's certain bees where their only purpose is to sexually stimulate
Okay,
the
so
queen
anyways,
bee.
Craig,
I'm not
you were
shitting.
gonna
Wait,
say
wait,
something
wait.
earlier.
He's talking about bee sex now.
Yeah.
Say that again.
There are certain bees, their
really
only
wanna
purpose in life
talk over
is
him.
to sexually stimulate the queen bee. They
want
don't
that job.
reproduce with her. They just make her sexually
I mean, that's kind of like you and me.
stimulated.
that, like, that's
exactly.
what we do.
Yeah.
It's like it's
Anyway.
almost like it's our job to sexually.
You got me
like
talking
that,
about
he's back
bees.
into it.
Around.
Yeah. Anyway, you got to talking about bees. They're super
crazy.
interesting. Carry on.
All right,
I'm
Craig.
sorry. I'm
Craig,
sorry I brought it on that track.
Craig, do you feel like you've made your point here, and so we can move
Basically,
on? To
you wish people were like bees, and that
Basically, Planet of the Apes
you would
2020. Craig is all for it. Also,
wishes we
Planet-
excreted weird pheromones to attract our mates.
Damn Dirty Apes 2020.
we do. It's called semen.
I'm just-
It's not a
My point is, if we
It's
are
not
at
an
the top of
attraction. It's
the,
more the opposite,
God, we can't get anything accomplished here.
No.
right?
I'm just saying, all I have to say is humans are selfish, and selfishness ruins just about anything that you can put on paper because we're going to screw it up. We screwed up democracy, and we'll screw up any other government that you throw at us too.
Sure. So I'll ask you the same question I asked Nathan. Like hypothetically, if you could Gary Johnson wave your magic wand and make a utopia, what would it be?
I would prefer to see something closer to anarchy where there's no government and nobody telling people what to do and we just live our own lives. But like I said, you'd have to pretty much trash it, burn it, and start from ground zero just to make it work because
Well-
it doesn't work with governments around. There's no way a small anarchical society can exist with big like governments around because they're going to eventually take over, just like we did with Indian tribes. Indian tribes were basically
Right, and that was my argument too, as you know, because you pointed it out. What are your thoughts on like Roger's idea of like seasteading, having like small communities, which is a thing that's happening, believe it or not.
I just don't see how that would work because how do you get resources in the ocean? Like how do you get fresh
Right.
water and how do you get
Well, they can travel
nutrients,
around. They can
sustenance
go
and
to
stuff?
different places and say, "Hey, we've got a deal with you to get this here and this there."
I just don't see too many people making deals with it.
It's
So I
a
just don't
it's a
last
fun thought experiment. It's a great
Right.
Hollywood movie. Somebody make it. Waterworld wasn't great, but
That's an understatement.
but yeah, cool. Cole,
What?
give me your uninterested thoughts on politics.
I'm way less.
bees, either
I don't
one.
think I'm as negative
we
as
talk
you
about
guys
bees?
about it. I mean, I think this is one of the best countries to live in.
America.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like, oh, what are you talking bad about my democracy?
Right.
I mean, democracy is a good thing. It
I
could
like
be
the
much
quote.
better than it was. I'm sorry, than it is. It used to be. Overall, though, yeah, democracy's not a bad system on paper. It's our political factions that really screw stuff up when everybody's worried about their funding and who they're pleasing, who's paying them.
I don't remember who said it or where I heard it, but I like the quote: "Democracy is the absolute worst form of government, outside of all the other ones. Like they all suck."
I don't know. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think I know a better way. I don't really. I think that voting matters. You know, I voted third party because I think the two-party system is flawed. I'm more like Nathan, where I think, you know, I don't really vote in accordance with a party or any. I don't subscribe to really any group belief-wise, or you know, I don't need to advocate and try to legislate my morality. I don't really align with any of that kind of thing, like the evangelical vote or or any of that, you know, the liberal, ultra liberal, or whatever you want. I'm probably way more of a liberal. If you had a gun to my head and said vote for Republican or Democrat, you know, if someone said you have to, you know, choose one of those two parties to vote for, I would probably vote Democrat. But I'm not. Like I said, I think that the third party needs a lot more
support.
Yeah,
or any party.
Any party.
More ideas.
There should be more going on than just two parties like vying for this. Yeah. I'm not hot on it, and I don't have a better answer. Sure. And
I think we would all agree that other people need to be heard. We need more ideas. The fact that we have two parties or even three parties that are running the whole thing, like, I mean, Libertarian Party has very little say in anything, but the fact that we have parties is kind of flawed because, like, can't we just, like, hear people out, and somebody who poses the best argument on how to make this all work for everybody, can't we just go with that no matter what colors they happen to be wearing on the shirt?
Well, that was the initial intention was who was it? One of the founding fathers that said if we went into a two-party system, it would pretty much ruin everything. Like we got to have a single, just basically a single party system where we're not fighting against each other. Basically what you just said there, like vote for the guy that has the best ideas.
Yeah, when you start aligning yourself with parties, you end up in a place where you're making stupid voting decisions because that person says they're blue, or that person says they're red,
or even you're your religion. One situation voter, like you're voting just because they think this one thing that you agree on that they're not going to change anyway.
Yeah, like you were talking about evangelicals, like basically Christians, white Christians, you get them on the abortion issue. You say you're anti-abortion,
That's
they're going to vote for you. And there's so many politicians who couldn't give a shit about abortion, but they know they'll get the white, you know, Christian vote, so they're going to say, I'm against abortion, I believe in the sanctity of life.
Single issue voting is pretty ignorant.
Yeah, and they can be the most horrendous person. They could, you know, want to
grab them by the pussy.
Yeah, they could want to grab them by the pussy. They could.
Yeah, well, the shitstorm that is American politics right now is something I don't.
It's my favorite reality TV show.
Can't see through all the shit, so I don't really try. I mean, I'm not even up to date on current events hardly, and I kind of don't give a shit because I got my own shit to worry about.
Yeah,
and
I guess you could probably just. This sounds like Black Mirror, you know, if anybody's familiar with that, but you could basically have a politician shit on a Bible and then say, I believe in human life and I'm going to protect that right. And then the other person who is a moral, upright person say, I believe people should have the liberty to do what they want with their bodies. And the Christians, quote Christians, are going to vote for the person who shit on a Bible. Like, it's that outrageous that I really think the party system or voting along one single issue is what has gotten us to this place. Right. And we need to get rid of that because almost nobody feels like either party accurately represents their views. And yet we still have two parties.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's quite a mess we're in here.
Yep.
Basically,
it's not really though. Also,
yeah, it is.
Like, I mean, it is and it isn't. It's kind of like it is what you
for
make
our
it.
standards. We're like, yeah, it is what you make. This kind of sucks and it's going down. But again, we're not doing too bad.
I don't know.
We're sitting here talking about it, and most countries can't do that.
Exactly.
So we can't complain too much.
Exactly.
Like when everybody. It's like when Obama got elected and all the conservatives were up in arms, and then Trump got elected and all the liberals are up in arms. And both times I was like, it's not going to change that much.
Yeah.
Right.
4 years is nothing in the grand
It's not going to change very much, and I'm not worried about it.
scheme. Can you guys believe we're almost already halfway through this election?
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Since I've been paying attention, the whole political thing seems to go much faster.
yeah. So I guess that's the thing is, I mean, I think we get a narrow.
Cool, Craig.
Craig,
Real
do you
cool.
fucking
Real
mind?
I'm on
cool.
call here.
You know you're on a podcast,
no, you're
right?
not.
I'm actually
Yeah, you're
on
on.
call for work too.
You're on a call.
I save people's lives. F you, dude.
I'll call him back.
Saves people's lives.
they'll just leave him.
I'm
as
on.
That's how you know
Call you
how
back.
important his on-callness is.
Yeah.
It's actually I'll probably get shit for it, but we'll see. We'll take a
Whatever,
break here in
Craig.
the next 5 minutes, and then I'll call.
No, he won't.
Oh yeah, you're
we
calling
will.
the shots.
I am.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying, Craig. Thanks a lot. But I feel like it was super profound and like
We'll assume that it was.
yeah. Oh yeah, no. We get so narrow-minded on these issues and everybody's up in arms about this president or that president. What we really should be focusing on is like long-term things that are going on and again, voting according to if you have morals, your conscience or whatever, like voting according to that is going to get you further than voting for this person or that person because really, like Cole was saying, 4 years nothing's going to change like substantially because even now when you had a Republican president, a Republican controlled House, like you still can't get shit done.
Yeah, and I've said it many times. I don't know if I said it on the show, but I've said so many times, like, people who are, like, one-issue voters, like, if you're voting on somebody just, like, based on anti-abortion, pro-life, whatever you want to call it. We had George W. Bush, 8 years. Totally anti-abortion. It's probably why he got into the White House. Guess what's not outlawed? Abortion. So the idea that them being against it is going to mean that it's going to be outlawed within the amount of time that they have, which he had a tremendous amount of time, and Trump will probably have 8 years too, and he was anti-abortion, and we haven't heard a single thing on abortion, to my knowledge.
I'll vote for almost anybody else with a pulse than him.
Yeah, I'm not voting for him ever either. But
Yeah. I mean,
I just mean the idea that a president is going to change,
Right.
like
Anything.
drastically anything.
Oh, yeah,
is
they
just
never really
far fetched.
Yeah, the biggest impact they can have is declaring war.
Well,
and like that's
foreign
the
policy,
big
yeah.
issue
The
that you
worst
need to
thing.
think about. And foreign policy is definitely Trump's weak point.
Oh
Yet
yeah, and
we
he
still
looks
voted
like just
for
a
him.
clown running this country. Like Obama was a much cooler head and
Mm-hmm.
actually represented our country well.
Yeah.
And I was,
By
I was
face,
proud
in
and
face.
and I could respect, even if I might not always agree with his decisions or what he would have been saying. It's like, well, I mean, he's a good leader, and
Yeah.
I can respect
I-
and our.
They all got
Our
it.
foreign
I would say that he got us into a
neighbors.
lot of wars, but so did everybody else. So I'm not saying that you're wrong.
Trump's no representative that I would be confident in when it comes to like a foreign affair or a foreign meeting or anything like
Exactly. He's not exactly known for his tact,
that. No.
which is why a lot
Really?
of people like him.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that Obama had going for him was he was a pretty face. He was a handsome
Only
guy,
thing?
and he was suave. He was a good speaker. He was a
would
great
not say
orator,
that's the only
and that's
thing.
something that's gone. I don't know anything else, but I don't want to get into
he had
like
a lot better head on his shoulders than Trump. He could make better decisions than Trump.
Well, he was just more cool mannered about things. He did not fly off the
he
handle.
sent us into
He had actual political experience.
sent us into a
Let's just
bunch of
say that,
wars,
too.
but he did it with a cooler expression on his face.
Yeah, but I don't know if you guys
Bunch
knew
of wars.
that.
What are these wars? All these bunch
I don't
of
know
wars.
if you guys realize that Trump is the most presidential president.
Mostest.
and nobody values women's rights more than him.
That's right. All right, let's get into religion. But before we do that, here's an ad for you guys. Hey, Dan Smots here. I'm taking a second to interrupt myself talking to talk about myself because, I don't get paid a penny for the hours and hours that I put into creating this show for you guys in your greedy little ears. And I've got a family to feed. To make that happen, I run my own media business called Goulash Media. If you have a need in anything from video production to graphic design to audio production and beyond, you can get it all for a painfully fair price at Goulash Media. In video, I do weddings, music videos, commercials, pageants, plays, etc., etc., etc. For design, I do photo editing, album art, logos, branding, business cards, merchandise, you name it. For audio, I do engineering, production, editing, jingles, and, well,
podcasts. So if you've got a media need of any kind, or if you'd just like to give a little something back and help keep my children fed, check out all the endless options at my website, goulashmedia.net. That's goulash, Goulash, media.net, where we cater to the little guy with the big vision. Okay.
So we're back, and while you guys were gone during that break, we recorded some accidental bonus content, which you guys can check out if you join the System is Down, the Downers Club, by going to tsidpod.com/support, where
Let's just
Nathan,
say something very comical
something
happened.
very comical happened, and there will be the first video episode.
There was blood.
There was a stool.
There was some
Blood in
liquid
the stool?
involved. There was somebody falling on their ass involved, and it's all caught on
Allegedly.
video. So
Here's a
it will be
conspiracy to make me look dumb.
it will be the first video that we ever release to.
Oh, you did that all on your own. buddy.
It'll be the first video that we ever release exclusively to the club. So go join that. Also, we found out the very important situation of Craig's on-call emergency with his job. So go check that out. Anyway, we're talking about religion now. The final thing that is in our CPR stuff. Where you guys all at on religion? For me personally, I'm not that far from where I was. I would say that when we recorded the first episode, I was pretty much like against all of it, but like I still believe there was a God, which might just be because that's the way I was brought up. I don't know. I still think that there's a God, and I don't necessarily subscribe to any person who says I know anything. The same as like conspiracies and politics and all that stuff. I don't subscribe to anybody who says I know that this is what it is. I willingly say I don't know anything. I will say that I have honestly a higher value of church than I did then, which is surprising to me. I did not expect to, but my church family, I know it sounds stupid, and I would scoff at myself if I was listening to it, but I would say that my church family has convinced me that I think that church is valuable because of the community almost solely, not even necessarily for the teaching or the worship or anything. I think that there might be value for some people in that, but to me personally, church is valuable solely for the community and relating to other people. And my church has since Lee Bazat, my pastor, has been on the podcast. He started a group that's kind of based off the podcast, which is called Uncomfortable Conversations on Wednesday nights, where we get together and we just talk about, like, we all write down a question on a postcard, we put it into a bucket, and then he draws it out, and then whatever, like everything, nothing is off the table, which I think is super healthy and super lacking in churches. It's the most real church community that I've ever been in, and we're a big basket of deplorables, as Hillary Clinton would say. I would say that we're a box of misfit toys, personally. But
I thought she was referring to Trump supporters when she said that.
yes. No,
Your church is Trump supporters?
it was Trump supporters, yeah. I'm not saying that my church family is Trump supporters.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
First
No.
Church of Trump.
No. Just only in terminology.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that we're a bunch of weirdos, and that's, if I didn't find a church that was real, I'm totally 100% opposed to 99.999% of churches, and the fact that I'm in one, I don't hold it against anybody. If they're not in one, I don't care, but I appreciate mine, and I think there's God, and I know that I don't know most things about him, but I'm open to it. Nathan.
Yeah, thanks, man. That really blessed me.
Cut me deep, man.
Yeah, not to be an asshole. Sorry, that sounded like I was making fun of you. That's just that's what the church thing to
That's what I
say
like.
is. No, I'm largely in the same place I was a year ago. I didn't convert to any other religion. I would say I've had some changes in my philosophies, but that's pretty normal year over year. Nothing substantial. But for me, I think it's important that certain parts of your worldview are constantly adapting and changing, while other things stay mostly the same. So,
Or not?
yeah, for me, I am, based on everything that I can remember that I said a year ago, most of that would still hold true. If anything, I've probably grown in feeling the same way as you, like being grateful for a community that I have around me, and also being incredibly frustrated with the community around me.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm not saying that the Wednesday night group where we talk about these things, it's all rosy.
yeah,
And that's what I love about it. Like, there are people who are like, no, I know this because this says this and this and this and this. I'm like, well, how about this?
yeah.
Not even based off scripture. Like, I don't know. I hate people that say that they know something.
Yeah, I've probably
I don't hate them. I hate the idea of them.
Sure. I know there are a lot of issues theologically that have shifted for me, not core issues, but things that are, for some people, would probably be things that would push them away from associating. But they're nothing that talking about in this context would do anyone any good, because I would have to cover so much, backstory on other parts of it.
Give us some highlights.
There are things about the character of God that are changing a little bit in my mind.
Just say what they
Deeper
are.
highlights.
Without
Deeper highlights.
just say what they are.
Subcategories.
Just what you think. And
Just
then-
leave us hanging and wanting more.
Yeah, like
so
Right. Well, maybe we'll do an episode.
you
on
don't you don't have to disclaim.
the place I was a year ago would probably turn a lot of people off. The place I am now would probably turn at least 15% of the people
On.
who were not turned off
on.
off.
Oh, okay.
So I would say I'm probably pursuing things in a similar direction, continuing down that path. But
highlights.
a lot of people who claim to be Christians think God's the old dude in the sky. Jesus, he's pretty cool. He did that cool shit on the cross for us, and the Holy Spirit's like his afterbody ghost.
That's
you know?
actually in the
Like,
Bible.
Yeah.
And then Jesus did that cool shit on the
Yeah.
cross.
Yes.
Jebediah 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, two Corinthians. And then they're like, the Holy Ghost is like a dude that is Jesus now or some shit. And I have to say I pretty much agree with none of that. So except for Jesus doing pretty cool shit.
Name name like three things that
Yeah, you don't have to get deep into it. Just say like what the things are that you
like-
think would push
like-
people's buttons, because we can dig into them deeper.
like
on
hell's
different
not real,
episodes.
or maybe hell's not real, or
No,
maybe we all go to heaven, or maybe
No.
God's not real.
yeah, no,
Say any of those things.
I'm not an annihilationist, but
You don't have to fully believe it.
Own your shit, man.
so
Say what you think.
my shit is this, that that God is pluralist and in nature, and that the Holy Spirit's a chick, and that
going.
there, I think a lot of this is the thing for a lot of people to say, like,
do.
transcendence of certain characters of God is one thing, would be a large stretch anyway. But I'm starting to question how transcendent the Holy Spirit is and how material they might be. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm working my way through when it comes to the metaphysical aspects of the gods. And so, yeah, I'm not substantially it's different from where I was a year ago, but there are a lot of issues that I'm kind of working my way through and being a lot more fluid on now than I was then. And
Get a little deeper. Just a little bit.
You
Okay.
were doing an excellent job of saying almost nothing,
I guess
while
because,
also saying a
you know,
shit
I
ton.
believe
talked
differently.
I talked a little bit about bees earlier, and you guys got on my case for like.
Well, we weren't
derailing the
talking about
I didn't get
conversation.
on your case. I said let's talk about bees for 15 minutes, and we
Yeah.
did.
All right, so yeah, if you want to run down, I believe that the character of Jesus was preeminent through his immanence, through his becoming physical, his physical manifestation. Through pre-time, he was non-physical, and they existed all-knowing amongst themselves. When he became physical, all things were created through him, and therefore he's still physical because all things still exist. If he were to stop existing in a physical realm, we would too. That's something that he can't undo, because I feel like our eventual afterlife, not the immediate afterlife, that we will be in physical bodies. Okay. The Holy Spirit is not Jesus's ghost. It's the female aspect of the Godhead. I feel like when you address God, you should talk about them, not he. I feel like the Holy Spirit is not just a spirit thing, that it's not just transcendent, it's not completely in and without the universe. I feel like there are elements of the Holy Spirit which are physical, and I think a lot of these things would turn evangelical Christians off. Even the thought of calling the Holy Spirit a she would
Well,
turn
I don't
them
think
off.
you're talking to a single evangelical in this
Nope.
conversation. So
Yeah.
Or probably
Please continue.
almost anyone listening.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that all throughout the Bible, when you talk about the Spirit, it's using gender neuter terms. It's never using gender masculine terms. It's very telling in the fact that when it talks about, other parts of the Godhead, it uses gender masculine. And when it talks about, in certain places, when it does talk about the Spirit, it does use feminine pronouns. So I think it's pretty clear cut. Also, if we believe that, God is an archetype for man, that we're created in his image, then there's male, female, we're created in his image. It says clearly in Genesis that men and women were created in his image.
Sure.
So there has to be a female aspect to God. Also, the very first mention of God is plural. It's Elohim, which is Hebrew. It's plural for gods. So, I mean, all these things are really hard for me to say that, God's a dude and his son is a dude and the Holy Spirit's just a thing that we talk about as a he.
Right. And we barely even talk about it. That's
yeah.
anything.
I'd still say that's that's not a very, you're questioning the attributes of God more than anything. Is that,
Yeah,
is that
and
the
that's
forefront?
pretty much where I would be a year ago. Now what I'm really getting at that would be a little bit more, I guess, heretical to a lot of people is attributes about the Spirit, which would have.
But you still fall pretty heavily into the camp of, I mean,
Yes, God.
yeah, you completely,
Right.
you're talking, you're using very Christian like lingo and
Yeah, that's why I
jargon.
said I didn't convert.
Yeah, you
know.
you have.
But if I were in one of the other churches that I had attended over my lifetime, I probably would have been thrown out about like 5 sentences ago.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Most definitely.
The fact that I mean, if we're talking about when you get into brain psychology, like you have the sum is greater than the part, like than the sum of its parts, like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. There's something to the human mind that cannot be simply amassed out of its components. There's something greater. It's like everything that's there plus one. There's an extra component. And so when we're talking about like the Spirit, when it's interacting with different things throughout the world and when it's interacting with us, if we have a spirit, then like there's some physical component there. Otherwise, like it would have no connection to us. And there's also different places throughout Scripture where it does seem to indicate the Spirit itself doing things that interact with the physical world. A lot of people would have a hard time acknowledging that the Spirit is less than transcendent. I don't know. There's just issues there that I'm not completely sure where I believe or where I'm arriving, but I'm starting to have significant questions about the assumptions that even I had a year ago, which I felt were pretty progressive compared to, which I actually would consider it to be traditional, but in this world it's progressive.
Right. It sounds. I would. Yeah, I agree with you. It's to the very conservative. It sounds very progressive, and
People that say I know.
to most
Yes.
people, to the general agnostic or secular public or whatever you want to call, like just the general non-believing, non-ascribing. That's still pretty damn.
Sure.
Within the.
We're all on our own journey.
No, I mean, like, you're still very much a believer.
Definitely.
Is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Who, much more traditional than, but not within the camp of,
Christianity.
Christian traditionalism. and
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
That's where I have a hard time because, if I were to call myself a Christian, it's almost misleading, because not only are there Baskin-Robbins 37 different flavors of
if you
Christianity.
can't call yourself a Christian, then I am definitely not a Christian.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I
Right.
think we should hang the fucking title because it doesn't do anything for anybody. And so
Same as American or conspiracist. But go
yes,
on.
so I guess I don't know what you would call me. I don't really care what you call me. I'm not even sure where I'm at.
Call
so,
you Nathan.
Yep.
Call you Nathan.
Or
Call you
Sipes.
heretic Nathan.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, and I would love to dig into that more in episodes of their own for sure. And Cole, you, I'm sure, disagree, which is great. And
What?
you probably disagree with what he's saying based on
what he's saying.
responses.
Oh, I don't disagree with what he's saying. I just don't believe almost any of it.
Oh, sure, yeah. We'll get to you. I'm just saying that I would love to dig into this
It's
more.
not that I disagree. Like I just have a different
Right.
Worldview.
You know, like that's where I think people get their panties in a twist, for lack of a better way of saying it. Like I don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree
Sure.
with me.
No,
Like,
that's great.
We're all just speculating on stuff that's impossible to know.
Absolutely. I love it. And I'm just saying I would love to dig into this with whoever's interested on a podcast of its own, a podcast episode of its own. Craig, where are you at?
I'm
Super conservative Christian fundamentalist, right?
yes, exactly. No, I wouldn't say I'm too.
You know, Mom listens to the podcast now, so choose your words wisely.
Yeah, I could care less.
Love you, Mom.
I don't think I'm too far different than I was a year ago, because a year ago I was basically starting to question just about everything anyway, or 6 months prior to that. Everything kind of started questioning at the same time. So, I'd say more now. The difference being, currently I'm in a New Testament class in college, because I go to a Catholic college. So they throw in like you have to you have to take like a world religion class or this class. The only one that fit my schedule was this New Testament class, and it's taught by this Catholic guy, but it's really the most interesting class, like religious. You got scoff at all you want, but
You saying this Catholic school has this Catholic dude teaching classes?
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is he a white cis male?
He is actually. The thing about it that is the most intriguing to me is it's coming at the New Testament from an academic standpoint versus a religious standpoint. There's absolutely nothing religious versus this is what it's about. It's about religion. So it's coming at it like you would any other religious story or religious textbook, but it's not saying, well, God is this and God is that. It's saying, it's hitting like the history of the Bible. He talks about like the different genres of the different sections of the Bible and how it was written and stuff. So to me, when I've read the Bible before, it's just reading it all basically kind of as one author. Like we've commented before, me and you, Dan, were raised that the Bible is literal and everything in it's literal. And that's what I've had issues with, is like Genesis being absolutely 100% literal. Well, that doesn't line up with science. And if it doesn't line up with science, then what's really true and what's not? But if you come at it from different genres and stuff, like we don't read poetry thinking that every word written in poetry is literal. There's metaphor and there's simile and stuff like that, where things mean different things. And it was also written in a completely different language, multiple different languages. And so coming at it from a different culture, like how much of it was contextual, like how much is it something that's in context of their culture that we want to understand today? It sounds like this, but in the context of their culture, it actually means something completely different. Like the phrase days or seasons or just stuff like that. It's like, so the biggest thing this class is doing to me is allowing me to read the Bible again for the first time in probably 10 years. I haven't actually sat down and spent a great deal of time in the Bible, but reading it more from an academic point of view and seeing like, well, how is this author actually writing this versus like, say, the four Gospels? They're completely written from four different standpoints. Like, well, what's this guy actually trying to say? And what's this guy trying to say? And so to me, it's just an interesting experience more than anything. And getting the background of it, it's not making me more or less religious, but it's allowing me to kind of view Christianity, I guess, from a different angle. And personally, in about the same spot, I'm naturally a skeptic of lots of things. So if somebody gets up and says, this is what the voice of God is saying to me, I have a hard time believing that, just because of the skeptic in me. I still go to the same church that you give me just as much for going to.
As is deserved.
Well, like you said, I'm not going to give anybody crap for not going to church, but then you sit there and give somebody crap for going to church. So
going to church.
on the same page.
To be fair, the only reason I give you crap for it is because it's the same denomination that we grew up in that
yeah.
we both bash on.
Sure, but like you,
And
specifically,
I don't
the
care.
only reason
Hear them out for sure.
like you, specifically, the only reason I go is for the community because I like the people there. I don't necessarily. I'm not going there to learn anything because how many of us actually learn that much in church? Besides maybe Nathan, because his pastor is kind of crazy. So,
It's a cult. Would you get it right, please?
What's that?
It's a cult. Please get it right.
Yeah, your cult is weird. No, most people anymore don't go to church necessarily to learn things, and if they are, they're probably doing it wrong anyway because you shouldn't get all your information from one person or a couple of people. You should be seeking out those answers on your own, like we said with conspiracies or like we said with politics. You shouldn't be listening to that pastor and just going specifically.
And if you're only going to learn, there's like 100,000 podcasts of pastors and like big names and small names and people.
Turn Jimmy Swaggart on TV or something if you wanted to. So naturally,
Joyce Meyer
or
Joel Osteen.
Exactly, Joel Osteen's my favorite. I do still prescribe to Christianity, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm just now even starting to dive into, like going back and reading the Gospels. Like I feel like Jesus' gospel is completely different from like what Paul was saying. Like the things that Paul said, like salvation is through faith alone, or you confess with your mouth and blah 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 and all that stuff. Well, then Jesus never talked really
direct quote.
Exactly. Jesus never really spoke too much about salvation through faith. Like your faith healed you, or your faith is what saved you, but it was always like to get into the kingdom of heaven. It was never like, well, you have to have faith to get in the kingdom of heaven. No, it was, well, to get in the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like a child, or you have to like give up all your wealth, or you have to humble yourself, or do.
There's a lot of ways to get into heaven. Like the thief on the cross next to him said, "Hey, I like you," and Jesus was like, "Yeah, you're saved."
Right.
It's like, so was that faith, or was it works, or was it this or this? Like Heretic Rob Bell points out in his book, I think it's Love Wins, maybe not, but he points out like the 25 different types of ways that is described in the Bible where Jesus definitively said, because of this, you are saved.
Right.
But we think it's exactly what we...
Because we specifically follow Paul's teaching for the most part. Like most, at least evangelical teachings, follow salvation based on Paul's teachings, which... I mean, they don't contradict Jesus' teachings by any stretch, but there's so much more. If you just read the four Gospels, salvation comes out, or at least acquiring the kingdom of God is so much different than have faith in God. And
I think part of the reason people get so confused is like the Gospels are partitioned to the New Testament, but they're 95% Old Covenant.
Right.
And so everybody's like, having a hard time figuring out why Jesus is acting this way, but he's operating under Old Covenant because New Covenant hadn't been established yet.
Sure.
Different episode.
Another thing, we do watch several videos of this Catholic bishop, and this guy is probably the smartest guy I've ever heard religiously. It's the only time I'd be like, because when the guy was like, yeah, listen to this bishop, I'm like, oh, this is going to be nuts because some things that the Catholics preach is just way out there, in my opinion, which what freaking Nathan over here is preaching is way out there too. So, but this guy comes on and he's the most down-to-earth guy I've ever heard, and he's talking about how he calls them Protestants, which is anybody but Catholics, like evangelicals or Lutherans or whatever are Protestants if you're not Catholic. Basically, the moment you were saved, like, oh, I got saved this day when I was in kindergarten and Sunday school and this. And apparently in Catholicism, it's not that way. He's like, there's not that direct moment. It's like your salvation is a process, like a constant process of of going through like rededicating yourself, I guess, and they have their like their penance and stuff like that, which I don't necessarily subscribe to, but just the concept of your salvation being a process throughout your entire life. You shouldn't know the exact moment you're saved. That kind of completely started sending me off on a completely different direction religiously, or at least thought wise of religion. I can't say I'm religious at all, but basically I'm just exploring everything right now. As far as biblically, I'm just trying to like make sense of it on my own. So
Yeah, that's cool. I like it. And the fact that you're, I mean, I had John Schweppe on the show to talk about Catholicism, because it's like everybody, all the artists and everybody think that Christianity is Catholicism because that's where this supposedly stemmed from. I think it's good to listen to them and hear them out. I don't agree. I don't subscribe to it. But it's good to hear everybody out on every side, because, again, we have no idea. Cole, bring it home.
Okay. Almost every one of you seemed to say you didn't think you were very religious, but from my point of view, you're all pretty damn religious.
Sure.
It's coming from someone who used to be very damn religious, more than I would claim to be.
Well, okay. What do you mean? How do you see it that way? That makes me curious.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that
More than you would have been?
yeah. 'Cause
Why more?
when you were in high school, for sure, you were very proactive about
Really?
like seeking people and stuff like that. So, if in my view, anyway, like what I saw of you,
like with my band and stuff.
yeah, just a lot of stuff. Like you were very outward about it.
I was the same with our band.
Yeah,
Just thought that was what we were supposed to do.
I guess
but
for me, I've just
like-
never been as forward as I saw you being. So for me, you seemed to be very like religious.
Well, it was an act. That's not a joke.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
I never.
necessarily an act, but just your mindset at the time. And
Sure.
We've
Well,
all
it was
been
an
there.
act. I was trying to fool myself too. So
Yeah,
I mean,
Sure.
never addressing any of the actual questions and things that I have zero reason to believe or anything. So it was an act. I mean, maybe I didn't know it was, but I mean, I just thought, oh, this is what you do. This is what you're supposed to do.
sure.
It was real to you at the time, same as our religiousness is real to us at the time, and we've changed in the last year, so
Right.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just that compared to where I'm at now, you are religious people compared to what I think
Sure.
now. So, but then again, within the religion spheres, you would all be relatively heretical for what you think and
It's a
of
step.
them. But no, I don't know. I mean, because of my so since last year, what was I? I don't even know what I said. I probably said
Something similar to, I think, what me and Craig said.
something probably like, yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I think you were at a period of like questioning, but you definitely wouldn't call yourself a Christian.
Yeah.
You were, I think, at a point where you were like, I don't go to church. I don't
Right.
believe
I
in that stuff.
I'm no closer to being subscribing to any beliefs. So
Yeah.
I'm further, I would say. Actually, I had a definitive moment or two that happened, and I thought more than just a thought. It was like, yeah, that's it. I'm not a Christian. Like, that's it for sure. Like a couple different times where I'm like, I have to be honest, I'm not.
Can you say what those moments were? Do you know?
There was just a couple of authors that one author specifically, and I told you about him. It was just listening to him talk and how he thought he had to advocate for his beliefs and the way he treated people for it and things. And I was like, whoa, that guy, whatever it is about him, I'm not. He's a professing, Christian, evangelical or whatever. I'm just like, whatever he was. I mean,
Douchebag.
he was awful, and I get it that he doesn't represent everybody that believes, but if that's what Christianity is, and that's not like the only instance. There's tons of things where I'm like, whoa, if that's what Christianity is to the world at large, I'm not that.
Right.
And you know what I'm talking about very well, Dan.
So, I mean, I would generally agree with you. I'm curious, like, where you would self-describe, not comparing to other things, because
Right.
I'm
And
having a hard time understanding.
Yeah, I
like,
wanted to not continually talk about Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very tired of that. of Christianity. I don't see. I don't know. It's all of our framework, so of course we're going to talk about it.
Sure.
But, yeah, I don't know. I more or less. I don't know. I'm an agnostic. I don't believe in that I could know anything. I don't care that other people want to believe what they believe. That's totally fine until they start trying to like make it laws and all that stuff, which I used to care and think that too, you know. But I think church is, I don't know. That's a huge part of my past, and I hate talking about it for so long because I don't have anything good to say about it really, and it's just not for me.
Right.
You know, there's people that enjoy it, and that's fine. But it's done more damage to me than anything.
Yeah, and I agree.
And I think it's done a lot of damage to a lot of people, and so I'm just not into it. I don't like it. And
Yeah, I agree. And like, there has even been points in the church that I'm at now, which is like the 0.001%. I would think. Not trying to sell my church, but the only reason I'm in a church is because it's the church that it is, and like there's a part of me that's still like,
you realize
do I
everyone
need
says
this?
that about their church, but I know,
Well, I know.
you, and I
Right.
know that church. I went there.
Right. I agree with you. Like, if I was going to any other church, I would not be going to any other church.
I will not go to any other church. I will not go to any church. I don't believe in it.
Sure.
I just don't. I think.
Do you want to expand on that?
I don't think it's necessary. I think you can very well get your community in multiple
agree.
other ways.
I don't think it's necessary.
But I don't even need to defend what the community thing. I don't think any of it matters, honestly. Like, you do you, you know? Like,
Sure.
I hate when people try to sell their church and try to
Sure.
like,
Not what I was trying to
my
do.
church is different, and everybody says
Yeah,
that.
I get
Every
that, and I
church
was
is
not trying to do
different.
that.
Yeah, I know you're not, but I mean, like,
Yeah, no,
I'm just saying. 'Cause
I
like,
am totally with you. Like, every church is different, and it seems like the trendy Christian thing to do these days is to to not be, you know, Christian. Like, we're cool, you know, we're just like you, you know, and
sure, yeah,
like
yeah, sort of.
that is like really annoying. And
It is, because
Like,
then what's the
I-
point? What's really
Yeah,
the point?
But also, though,
What's
why
the
would
point
you
in
think
general?
that there is any point at all? Because I know all the where you're getting at there, Craig, when you say like if you're a church person and then you're trying to be like everybody and act like we're all the same, come hang out, we're cool. Then what's the point of church? Aren't you supposed to be different? That's
Right,
exactly
right.
my problem with the church.
That's the
is that they
recruiting
think
mindset.
no that they think that so many people that go to church, they think
Well, it's
better. We need to hold ourselves to this higher
Yeah.
standard.
I'm not saying my
we're
church is-
different. If you have this, you have to like exemplify this
Sure.
this difference and be better than the common bullshit. And like it's just the
What I'm
it's
saying
so-
is, I get tired.
not-
I get tired of the churches that are that, but try to not be that. That are just like pure traditional church, but then they're like, "Well, we're cool. We're
My
hanging
church is
out.
different."
We're being a concert. It's just like going to a concert and stuff like that." It's like you're not really.
Then if you
cool.
like that concert, go to that concert because that's what it is.
Exactly.
Church is a
I'm
show.
not saying that my church, because of what it is, that people should go to it. I'm saying that my church, because of what it is, it speaks to me and it works for me. I'm
I
not
don't-
saying that other people should because
I don't
of
want
that.
I don't want this to be the church debate. I think
Right.
church is useless. That's
Well,
that's my
talk more
general
about-
statement.
Yeah, talk more about like get into where you're at spiritually and mentally and
Oh.
the God
Yeah.
issue.
Well, okay, I don't know. Maybe I have no idea. I mean, it's not like I have an explanation for what it all comes from and where we stem from or who created it all. If we are created, if we're a product of just swirling space dust.
Mhm.
I don't know, and I don't think I'll ever know, and I don't really see a point in fucking with that very much because it just doesn't. I believe in whatever began me and my consciousness is God, and I think that whenever scientists or really any belief that comes about speaks about its origin, the originator is God, whatever it is. It could be futuristic civilization in a lab and we're on a tabletop in under a microscope or you know, on a computer motherboard or whatever. We could be a simulation. We could be whatever began this. I don't care what your theory is. I don't care what you think happened or didn't happen. Like your genesis, your beginning, anything, whatever it is that put it into motion is, you can credit that with a sort of a godlike reverence. So
That is almost exactly what I said on the episode a year ago.
Yeah, so it seems like you believe in a very abstract definition of God, but you don't believe that.
don't try to diagnose me, man.
But you don't believe that we can know like specific details about that.
No, I definitely think things like holy books like the Bible and the Quran and stuff like that, those are just a bunch of people with agendas that wrote what they wanted. And maybe something told them to write it. Maybe it didn't. I certainly don't think they need to hold as much weight as they do with people and make them do the crazy things they do in the name of it. But that's what happens. And I don't know. I just...
That comes back to selfishness of people too. I think even the compilation of the Bible, like when we decided which books or whatever to be included, comes down to possibly the selfishness or
Who
agenda.
decided? I thought God decided that.
Yeah, right. So
Sweet white man.
whenever they compiled whichever books they decided they wanted in it, there had to have been some human. Obviously a human agenda involved there, even if they went through and were very specific. Well, these people are more credible than these because of this or this. Well, there's still a human element there, and there's still that human selfishness there at some point, which to me, I mean, take it for what it is. Yeah, you can say, well, the Bible's the holy book of God. You can't take or add to it or whatever. Well, at some point somebody took from it and somebody added to it. I mean, there is that scripture, but at some point, somebody added to it.
It happened.
Somebody took from it. So
it's proven that we took from it and added to it.
Well, hands down, there's, well, of course, you know, I don't think the Bible's God's word.
Sure.
I mean, maybe some of it is. Maybe some of it is.
Right. I mean, at the very least, we did take from it. There were these books that we took out. There are these books that we chose to be in there. We did that, and all of it was written by us. So
I mean, you could never be like, well, this is absolutely to a literal T God's word.
And again, we should probably have a completely different episode on biblical inerrancy and all that stuff, because
I think it was because of biblical inerrancy and actually addressing questions that I always had with that, and what I believe and what's right and what's wrong and why do I think that and how was I, you know, just all the questions with the Bible and why, you know, is it inerrant?
Sure.
Things started there, I think, and then I'm like, well, of course it's not inerrant. I mean,
right. Yeah, and we're not here to really debate what is and what isn't.
No,
we're more here to, you know, catch up on where you're at.
Oh,
and
yeah, I'm a godless agnostic,
and that's why, like,
I'm not an atheist. Like, I could never say I know there's no God.
Exactly,
but
because that would be definitive.
Do you currently think that? I mean, you kind of already said that you think that there is a God. Do you think that? I mean, like I said, that's where I was a year ago. Just like, I don't know what is. I think that we were made by a creator. That's my religion.
Intelligent design seems to be a theme when you look around, but hey, who am I to know? I'll just revere it, and that's it. And honestly, if whatever God it is, if there's an afterlife, that's obviously not prove. You know, we can't know.
And whatever we
there
think
is,
won't change what is.
Then, and if that God is a good God, then probably we're all just a piece of that God, and we'll probably all come back to him or her, it, whatever it is. I don't know. If there's an afterlife, I don't see a good God sending anyone to hell, so or to any sort of eternal conscious torment.
Different episode.
It is, but so I mean, that's just where I'm at. Like, if I believe in a supreme being and creator, then I also believe in universalism, and that maybe some of the stuff that happened in the Bible was just there for some decent stories, some good lessons, and then a bunch of people's ramblings and agendas.
Sure.
So, but overall, we always do this where it's all about Christianity, really. But I mean, that's my only framework. That's our only framework.
That's where we're at. We're
none of us have
we're
any
all
other
pretty much
experience.
same
with-
backgrounds, same everything. So
None of us have any real experience at all.
I would love
with
if somebody
any
came
other
in, they're
religion.
Like, I'm a Hindu now. I'm a
Like
Buddhist now.
we weren't raised. We weren't raised in any other
Right.
framework, so we
Yeah.
have not really anything else to go on.
Right. Yeah. Not
is
that we have to. This is all just to see where we're at and everything.
Right.
And a lot of where we're at is probably just based on our upbringing. And there's a lot to dig into on that and why we think the way we do. I mean, there's plenty of people who were raised Hindu and they grew up, or Muslim, they grew up and they're like, yeah, I don't really know about a lot of these things, but I still believe I'm still basically Hindu or basically Muslim or whatever, which is totally fine.
It's
We're all
like
just dealing
your
with this together.
entire like Christian majority in America. Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Right. I'm in America, so I'm a Christian.
Because of those people, it's because of all the Christians that
Sure.
Christianity is such a bad rap. And such,
But
Oh,
I mean,
and it,
for sure.
and it's so tainted and messed up and doesn't make any sense.
but in like the last maybe 5 minutes, we've gotten a lot more out of what cult is. Is that I wasn't trying to diagnose you. I was just
Oh,
trying
I was
to,
messing around when I said that.
Yeah, I was just
screwing
trying
around.
to tease out, like, because most of what you define is what you're not, and I'm just trying to figure out
that's
like
true.
where you're at. So
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
trying to diagnose you. I'm just trying to get you to leave all that other shit on the table and tell me like where you are, because
I have a distrust for organized religion anymore. I don't really like the discussion that much.
Sure.
So really, like every topic,
So let's do a podcast on it.
every topic that your CP and R, just, I'm pretty apathetic about pretty much every one of those. It's kind of weird.
It's all
I
right.
don't know. I'm sure it's partially a phase, but I'm not gonna just turn tail on any of my, like I'm not gonna be like, now I love conspiracies or now I'm a religious,
I would say honestly,
very-
like for all three topics, we haven't disagreed that much. Honestly,
Right? Yeah, I know, but I just I don't know.
we're in different walks, different places in our journey. But for the most part, I mean, like we're
That's
dealing
the
with
most
the same
Christianese
shit.
thing you could have said.
That was the
Yeah.
point. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea of questioning everything and staying uncomfortable. I don't know on any of these things. I willingly admit that, and that's the only point of the show is to say, you don't know. You don't know. You might feel like you know, but what are you basing that off of? And if you dig deep into it, you don't know anything. You're just you. You're just a guy or a girl or something in between that thinks a certain way, but you don't know anything. So it's been fun, and I would love to do this more often than once a year, but if not, then I'll see you guys all in 2019 for the Uncomfortable Pow Wow Part 3. I love you all, and it's been a great time and a pleasure, and I think that it was productive, even if you disagree, and even if everybody's bored of listening to this. But Nathan, Craig, Cole, thanks so much for coming on.
thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to get more of this nonsense, you can go over to the Downers Club and sign up for as little as $5 a month at tsidpod.com/support. We actually did a little bit of bonus for this episode where the four of us talked about celebrity death lists for 2018. The people that, celebrities that we think will sadly pass away during 2018. It was just a fun little bonus thing that we tagged on to the end, and I thought that the main conversation went long enough as was, so I just took it out. And Downers Club members are going to get that and all of our giant backlog of bonus content and a bunch of other fun stuff because they went to tsidpod.com/support and signed up for the Downers Club for as little as $5 a month, and you can do the same right now. Go ahead and do it. Also, if you haven't already, I would highly recommend that you go sign up for the System is Down forum, which is completely free. You can find it by going to tsidpod.com/forum, and that is the place where all of the weirdos of the world come to discuss some of these bizarre topics and have these uncomfortable conversations in quote-unquote real life. It's currently through Facebook, as long as Facebook doesn't take us down. But if they ever take us down, you will still be able to find us by going to tsidpod.com/forum. So get in there. You can talk to me, and you can talk to most of the people that I've had on the show as guests, and you can let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what you think about everything. And go like, share, subscribe, review, whatever, all the stuff on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Leave us a happy review on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. Do all of these free things that you have at your complete disposal to help us grow the show, help us get the word out there, and get it into as many ears as we possibly can. Do all of that, and I'll be right back here first thing again next Monday morning with some more uncomfortable conversations for you. Thank you guys so much for a beautiful year 1. Let us now trek on forward together into a beautiful year 2, and as we do, of course, remember to always question everything and stay uncomfortable. Thanks. This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.